As tensions once again rise across the Middle East, as nations debate power, identity, and survival, there exists a true story the world rarely discusses. It is a story that began in the same lands now in conflict, but it did not end in destruction. Instead, it has become one of the greatest success stories in human history. A tiny refugee community has built an economic and cultural brilliance so vast it defies logic. Not through conquest, not through political dominance, but through quiet, consistent contribution. This is the story of the Parsis, the Indian Persians, and what they continue to achieve was never supposed to be possible. What if history had taken a different turn? What if those who left had stayed? Would the world have lost one of its most extraordinary examples of resilience and contribution? They came from Persia, a land once ruled by empires where influence stretched across continents. It was a civilization that was not only powerful, but deeply refined. From governance systems ahead of their time to architecture that still stands in awe, Persia represented a level of sophistication few civilizations could match. It was a world of learning, trade, and cultural brilliance where ideas moved as freely as armies. At its heart lies Zoroastrianism, a philosophy simple yet eternal. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. It is more than religion, it is a way of life, a moral framework that shapes not just personal behavior, but entire communities. But when Persia fell, its people faced a choice: assimilate or disappear. For many, it meant losing identity. For a few, it meant leaving everything behind. Leaving not out of weakness, but out of determination to preserve who they were. So they sailed across uncertain waters towards an unknown land. Imagine the uncertainty, leaving behind a great civilization with no guarantee of acceptance, no promise of survival. They arrived on Indian shores, not as rulers, but as refugees. In Gujarat, they asked for nothing except a chance. Through the legendary story of sugar in milk, they vowed, "We will not take up space, we will create value." A promise not just of coexistence, but of meaningful contribution. Over time, they have not just integrated, they have transformed, blending seamlessly into the fabric of India while still preserving their identity. From this tiny community continue to emerge giants. When India needed industry, Jamshedji Tata laid the foundation of modern Indian enterprise. He didn't just build a company, he built institutions that continue to power a nation. From steel plants to education and research, his vision continues to shape India's industrial future. J.R.D. Tata gave India its reality, bringing aviation to a country still finding its feet. At a different time, when flying itself felt like a distant dream, he made it a national reality. Respectfully, Ratan Tata took Indian enterprise beyond borders, and his leadership continues to redefine what it means to lead with compassion. for supporting education to healthcare to disaster relief, his philanthropy continues to touch millions of lives, proving that leadership is not just about scale, but about responsibility. This spirit was not individual, it was cultural. Ardeshir Godrej built trust, not just products. The Wadia legacy continues to shape India's maritime strength. Cyrus Poonawalla has built one of the world's largest vaccine empires, actively protecting not just India, but the world, a contribution that remains especially visible as the world faces global health crises. In science, Homi J. Bhabha built India's nuclear future. In defense, Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw led the nation to victory with courage and clarity. His leadership during critical moments changed the course of history. And among them stood Ardeshir Tarapore, a Param Chakra recipient who gave his life in service of the nation. In cultural circles, the baton of Zubin Mehta commanded the world's greatest orchestras, bringing a Parsi spirit of precision and harmony to the global stage. Freddie Mercury's voice echoes across the world, reminding us that influence knows no boundaries. From steel to science to defense to global cultural brilliance, this is not coincidence, this is contribution. Today, the Parsi community numbers only around 50 to 60,000 people in India, less than 0.0005% of the population, and yet they have built and continue to lead India's greatest business empires. The Tatars, the Godrejes, the Wadias, the Poonawallas, names that are not just companies, but institutions trusted by millions. They hold one of the highest concentrations of billionaires in the world, nearly one for every few thousand individuals, a ratio that no community in history has ever achieved. A literacy rate above 99%, making education not an advantage, but a norm. What they are achieving relative to their size is not just extraordinary, it is almost impossible. And yet, they make it look natural. But their success is never just about wealth. It is about values, ethics, discipline, and education. And above all, giving back, a deep-rooted belief that success carries responsibility. Hospitals, institutions, and charitable trusts built not for recognition, but for responsibility, often quietly, without the need for attention or applause, because in this community, wealth is never the destination. It is a tool to uplift others, and perhaps that made all the difference. As As the world once again looks towards the Middle East, towards conflict, uncertainty, and division, the story of the Parsis offers a living possibility. That displacement does not mean decline. That migration does not mean loss. That even in uncertainty, there is potential for reinvention. That identity can survive and even thrive far from where it began. They were descendants of great Persian empires, but they do not just inherit power. They are recreating it in a foreign land through contribution, vision, and discipline. Step by step, generation after generation, what they have achieved and continue to achieve, no other community of this size has ever done. It should have been impossible, but for the Parsis, the Indian Persians, it remains quite doable.